This is English shorthand dictation number 160 and the dictation speed is 160 words per minute. Ready? Start. Friends, as we have distanced ourselves from the masses, the basic issues of national unity and integrity, social change and economic development recede into the background. Our workers who faced the bullets of British imperialism run for shelter at the slightest manifestation of caste and communal tension. Is this the path that Mahatma Gandhi showed to a secular democratic India? We talk of the high principles and lofty ideals needed to build a strong and prosperous India, but we obey no discipline, no rule, follow no principle of public morality, display no sense of social awareness, show no concern for the public weal. Corruption is not only tolerated but even regarded as the hallmark of leadership. Flagrant contradiction between what we say and what we do has become our way of life. At every step, our aims and actions conflict. At every stage, our private self crushes our social commitment. As action has diverged from precept, the ideology of the Congress has acquired the status of an heirloom, to be polished and brought out on special occasions. It must be a living force to animate the Congress workers in their day-to-day activity. Our ideology of nationalism, secularism, democracy and socialism is the only relevant ideology for our great country. But we are forgetting that we must take it to the masses, interpret its content in changing circumstances and defend it against the attacks of our opponents. The revitalization of our organization is a historical necessity. At this critical juncture, there is no other political party capable of defending the unity and integrity of the country. There is no other party capable of taking the country forward to progress and prosperity. All other parties are shot through and through with internal contradictions. The sorry, unpleasant spectacle of their total incapacity, corruption, nepotism, and hypocrisy has disfigured our political landscape. They have shown a cynical disregard for sensitive issues of national security. Some have not hesitated even to collude with anti-national elements. Their ideological roots are shallow, their political outlook circumscribed by region, caste and religion. Wherever they have come to power, they have retarded social and economic progress. They have no sense of history. Those who campaign for a weak center campaign against the unity and integrity of India. Their slogans are spurious because true welfare comes from growth, which they have been busy destroying. It is the responsibility of the Congress to ensure that India is not left to the mercy of such forces. We must once more generate a mass movement based on Congress ideology to fulfill this momentous task. Only with such a movement can we cleanse the party and the nation. The inner strength of our people, their unbounded patriotism, their unshakable commitment to social justice, and their aspiration for a strong and prosperous India will destroy the ugliness and enrich the creative ground of India's greatness. How will this mass movement of epic proportions arise? The country needs a politics of services to the poor. The country needs a politics based on ideology and programs. To bring this about, we must break the nexus between political parties and vested interests. We will change the electoral laws to ensure cleaner elections. We will make political parties accountable for the funds they receive. We will wage an ideological war against those who exploit the poor in the name of caste and religion. The Congress, the custodian of the national will and the sentinel of India's freedom and unity, will be reorganized and revitalized. It will gather in its fold patriots of all sections and all communities. It will be the shield of the oppressed and the sword of the poor. The war on corruption will go on without let or hindrance. The country needs a clean social and political environment, and the Congress is determined to give it. Any denial of justice to the poor and the weak is in itself a crime. Our judicial institutions and legal systems have to be streamlined and strengthened. We shall put our best brains to work on this problem. Our administrative machinery is cumbersome, archaic, and alien to the needs and aspirations of the people. It has successfully resisted the imperative of change. It must learn to serve the people. It must become accountable for results. We need structural changes at all levels. We shall have them. The India of the future is growing in her schools and universities, but our schools and universities do not relate to the vision of the future. They continue to function in the old grooves. A new blueprint for education is being designed. It will not come out of musty corridors of the educational establishments. It will only come from a movement involving teachers, students, parents, thinkers, and philosophers. It is not a movement to capture more privileges, but a movement that sees the future in relation to the present and the past. A movement that uses that vast untapped energy of millions to create a design suited to our needs. As we look back on what we have achieved, one thought keeps coming back to mind: how much faster we would have developed had we succeeded in restricting the growth of our population. Progress would have been greater not in material terms alone, but in the quality of human life. That makes the family planning program so crucial to our future development. We need a better strategy to achieve the national goal of a stable population, healthier and better educated. The time has come to infuse new life into the struggle against poverty. Our anti-poverty programs have to come out of the grip of bureaucratic sloth and inefficiency. They have to become people's programs. All the elements, including education, health and nutrition, family planning, land reforms and cooperatives, communications, agriculture, animal husbandry, and industrial and rural crafts, have to come together in an integrated program to wipe out the age-old curse of poverty. The power to shape their own lives must lie with the people, not with bureaucrats and experts. Experts must help the people. Vibrant village panchayats must discuss, deliberate, and decide the choices to be made. This is a challenge to the Congress cadres. It is up to us, the workers of this great organization, to spread in every village and every hamlet of India, to mobilize the people, to guide them, to stand by their side when they are denied their due, to fight for them, and to see that resources are properly utilized. This will keep our organization in touch with the masses and will help us to become the true vehicle of change in rural India. We are building an independent, self-reliant economy. We have already achieved much, but more hard work is required from everyone, from scientists and technologists, from the public sector, from the private sector, from industrial workers, from farmers, from public servants, from traders, from housewives, and from each one of us. We have to work hard to accelerate our agricultural and industrial development on the basis of our own resources. We have to produce more than we are doing today, to invest more in future progress, and to support anti-poverty programs. We must remember that self-reliance and eradication of poverty demand the present generation to bear hardship and make sacrifices. Those who are employed have a duty to the future of India. They have to be more productive and consume less, so that resources can be made available for investment and for programs to help the poor. This is a national duty. Our lifestyles must change. Vulgar, conspicuous consumption must go. Simplicity, efficiency, and commitment to national goals hold the key to self-reliance. The Congress ministers, members of parliament, members of state assemblies, party functionaries, and leaders at all levels must set the example. Millions of people will follow them. Austerity and Swadeshi will galvanize the masses to grow more, to produce more, and to serve more. Above all, we need to create a mass movement for strengthening India's unity and integrity, for deepening our Indianness. The Congress which won freedom for India, the Congress which has brought India to the threshold of greatness, is preeminently the party of India's resurgent nationalism. Our nationalism is based on our rich diversity of cultures, languages, and religions. The Congress represents the multifaceted splendor of India. Today, communal, casteist, and regional forces, sustained by external elements, are undermining our unity. We have to be on guard. We have to carry the message of nationalism and unity to all. We have to overcome divisive forces. Let the saga of our freedom struggle be our inspiration. Let thousands and thousands of Congress workers fan out into every village, every urban center, to revive the traditions of our glorious struggle for freedom, in which all references were transcended. We shall persuade, we shall educate, we shall bind people together. together. But let the divisive forces understand quite clearly that the Congress, with the strength of the masses behind it, will crush with all its might the designs of anti-national elements.